Now, the hare hops around the tree.
Now the hare hops around the tree.
And then she's startled. She jumps into the hole.
And then she jumps into the hole.
Yeah.
Put smoke in the hole, wet with spear.
Put smoke in the... No, sorry, no, that's not. No.
I'm just going to do a school knot.
Not a proper knot, mate.
You stressed? Don't be stressed. Let's go back to the gooseberry farm.
Well, you weren't there when I left.
Just think of the gatehouse. I'm very proud of you. Okay?
Oh, I remember my first day at the bank. Terrible tummy ache.
Yes, my first day as CEO, I must admit I had some butterflies.
First time hunt mammoth, me be breaking it.
Hello and welcome to Haunting Button House, a BBC Ghost podcast. I am Luke and I am joined as always by Tash. How are you, Tash?
I'm alright, thanks, Luke. How are you?
I'm alright, thanks, Tash. How are you?
I'm alright.
We're getting a loop.
Go forever.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Here we are. Another week.
Another dime and another dollar. No, what do they
Another
say?
day, another dollar.
Another day, another dollar.
Another dime, another dollar. Let's see, I got $1 and one... What's a dime in... the American, the American listeners are like, we just know pennies, that's all we know.
We know pennies. A cent.
A cent, that's it. That's the one, yeah, you're right. Anyway, that's enough currency waffle for the beginning. How have you been? What have you been up to recently?
I've been to work.
Yeah.
But work was interesting this week because I did some BSL training, which was, I didn't do the training. I can't communicate in BSL, but I'm learning.
Which is British Sign Language for anyone who doesn't know.
Yes, of course. So did a bit of that. Learned how to say hello, how are you, what's your name, and then how to respond to those questions. But it's no good if I do it. You don't get many BSL podcasts.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's the medium for it, to be honest. It'd be more videos, I guess.
Yeah, I guess
videos,
you could have that. But so I've been doing that a bit this week, so that's been interesting. Still, it's a long way to go, but we'll slowly get there.
Are you doing more training in it, actually? I don't know.
I want to.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, officially at work. Are they doing more training? No. Okay, well...
No, they give you a little bit and then they're like, so if you want to carry on you have to pay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Okay,
that makes sense.
That's fine. So that's what have you been up to? Well,
we have been to the West Midlands Safari Park this weekend.
We did. And we've had such a hectic...
We have, yeah.
We had Joe Lycett.
Yes, yeah. Oh God, yeah, that was last week as well, yeah.
So we went to the Glee Club in Birmingham. Then we...
I think it's worth talking about that, isn't it? Like the Glee Club, yeah. It's like a small comedy venue in Birmingham, near where we live. And it was like comedians doing like really early sort of jokes, I suppose, like jokes that they might use, which was just interesting to see, I think, because it's when you see the final sort of like product of like a comedy show, it's all like, everything gets a laugh, or usually everything gets a laugh.
Yeah, everything's funny, isn't it?
But they specifically were saying at the beginning of this, there's going to be some stuff that might flop, let it flop so we know, basically. And it's like interesting to be told, don't just laugh for, to be polite, which is interesting. And it did happen. There were some times where people would do stuff and there would be some polite laughter, like, so it's not awkward.
Usually me.
And then they were just like, anyway, that didn't work, moving on. But yeah,
it was good. Not been before, so that was interesting. And then we had Mum's Bingo on Friday.
Yes, yeah.
And then on Sunday we had Westminster Safari Park.
We did, yeah.
So,
good day for it as well.
It was really sunny, and we saw... I won't name all the animals.
So
we saw.
lions,
what was your favourite
tigers,
animal that you saw?
Favourite animal? I think it was the end of the day with the sea lions. They were really good, to be honest.
They were good.
How about you?
It's tough. It's so difficult to pick. I say the giraffes because they are cool.
Majestic.
Yeah, I love how they walk, and also I very much like the hippos. I feel like they're my spirit animal.
Just want to lie around in the mud all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
So yeah.
And occasionally kill a tourist, I suppose. Like that's
Is that what they do?
That's what hippos do. Yeah, they're
they?
They're like the deadliest animal in Africa, apparently.
No.
And like the amount of people that they kill, like hippos are like night and day above like lions and snakes and everything else in Africa. Yeah, they're a man killer. Hippos are. I wonder if it's because they're just like really territorial and people tend to be around them a lot more. Rather, if you see a lion, you're like, I ain't gonna mess around with a lion. You know what I mean? Whereas hippo, you go, it's only a hippo, and then.
Anyway, should we have a look at some feedback?
Let's have a look at some feedback.
So, Caroline said, for clarification, Series 2 Christmas Special is my least favourite episode of all episodes.
Interesting. That's
so
a strong
interesting.
stance.
Yeah, definitely.
I know it, like...
I get it. I don't get it. I don't get it.
I mean, again, it's all opinion, so it's completely fair.
Absolutely.
I do think there's much weaker episodes like throughout the run rather than the Christmas one. Even if I like, as I said, I wasn't the biggest fan of that one. I still think there's weaker episodes, but each to their own.
And Caroline said, hands off my history corner. I think that's to you.
Might not. I'll have nature corner then, I suppose.
Yeah. So the Mikado is one of a number of comic operas, I'm going to say. So Caroline's for operettas. Is that opera?
Don't know.
That's probably
maybe
the right
it is,
word.
yeah.
I'm not going to question what Caroline says,
I have
to be
no
honest.
idea, yeah.
Written by Gilbert and Sullivan, which were very popular in the mid-19th century and through the 20th century. They are/were often performed by amateur groups as well as professionals. The Mikado is perhaps their most successful. Other well-known ones are Pirates of Penzance and HMS Pinafore. I've heard of Pirates of
Penzance. I was
Penzance.
going to say, your mum's got like a recording of it, didn't she?
Has she?
Yeah. On like a really old, like, do you know the gramophone style? I want to say like it's not a vinyl because it's metal, a record, I suppose. Like, yeah.
That sounds like my mum.
Yeah.
Queen Elizabeth was not assassinated but died of old age in 1603. She did have Mary, Queen of Scots, executed in 1586, some 12 years after the Bone Plot, to remove any further threat to her throne. She was eventually succeeded by Mary's son James, who was not... Caroline's put not Catholic, but maybe not Catholic.
James was Catholic, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, maybe it's not Catholic. Yeah.
He became James the Fourth. No, sixth.
Yeah.
Got my Roman numerals or something. Sixth of Scotland and James First of England, and was determined to bring the two kingdoms into one realm. Although the Act of Union didn't come into effect until 1707 under Queen Anne. And then at this point it seems as if Robin and Humphrey are the only ghosts in residence apart from the plague ghosts who we know in the basements. I forgot about them.
Yeah.
But in series 4, where Robin is showing the others all the stars he's named after the other ghosts who have moved on, he does mention a number of them that we've never heard of. So as Robin says, people come and they go.
Okay.
And Caroline said, I really like the documentary element of this episode. It served to establish the very thing that you talked about. The history is told by the victors and should be subject to constant revision as new evidence comes to light.
That's an interesting take on it, yeah, I suppose. Like that it's the documentary is showing that, you know, the account is completely wrong because
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, it makes you think about all the other things that we have documentaries on that we don't know are wrong yet. Marianne says, no, in the USA we do not have Eurovision.
I didn't think so. I know people in the US who do watch it, but they are British people who have moved to the US. So I don't know. I don't even know how they watch it.
It's probably not even on TV or anything.
No, it's probably like a streaming it or something.
So Marianne said, I enjoyed this episode. Humphrey's story is told so well. I felt sorry for him, stuck in a marriage with a woman who really doesn't want to be with him. A true marriage of convenience. Then to lose his life in such a silly way. He's a likeable fellow, alive or dead, and the annoying posh neighbour, not so much. I did like the dance of Julian and Barclay. The house isn't big enough for both of them to be dead. Definitely. And Julian's panic is well played. Little things like butt ho t-shirt makes the series so awesome. I'd give it a solid 8. I think I gave it an 8, didn't I?
I think so.
Did I
yeah,
give, I'm sure I
can't
gave it
remember.
an 8 as well.
We'll have to. You'll have to go back and listen to it. Get our numbers up.
I
to
know,
be fair.
yeah. And Marianne said, "Welcome to Kentucky and Waverly Hills. No, there is no Jefferson County University here, and I've never heard of the mispronunciation of the graduation roster video. Look it up."
I
We
went
watched
back.
it.
Yeah, we watched it. It is quite funny.
Here we go. Marianne said, "By the way, it's pronounced Louisville. Louisville? Not Louisville, like you told me."
See, I always thought it was. I've
I'm
literally
not
heard people say
making me
Louisville,
look a
but-
fool. And Marianne said, "You're right about the solarium. Fresh air and sunshine were supposed to be curative for TB. Coincidentally, 502 is not only a creepy, spooky room in the sanatorium, but also our local telephone area code."
Coincidence or not?
Spooky.
Marianne raised a good point then, talking about the marriage of convenience thing, because I think that was probably really not popular, really commonplace for like noble people back then. Like I imagine that a lot of people just got married because it made their family stronger or something like that. Which is why I always find it interesting that in in Game of Thrones, like in the first series, Rob, because it might as well be a historical thing, like Game of Thrones. It's based on so much of like historical stuff from like the UK, but like how they're pushed together, like their marriage is one that was like that, but they do eventually find like that like closeness and that. Like towards the end, like they're talking about how they made their like, I can't remember the phrasing that they used, but basically they made their marriage work and now actually do love each other, whereas they didn't at the beginning. So can happen, can work, but not in Humphrey's case, unfortunately.
Poor Humphrey. So we have another piece of feedback, and that's from Chantal. It says, "Hello from Canada."
That's a new name, Chantal. Has Chantal left feedback before?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No. Well, she's saying hello. So
Okay,
hello
well, yeah,
from
makes sense,
Canada. I didn't know we had Canadian listeners. She said, "I love listening to your podcast." Thank you. Thank you. I don't never know what to say.
That's an inside joke there.
Never know what to say. Just wanted to share that Canadians do watch Eurovision, but it's not very popular over here as not too many Canadians participate in it. Although our most famous participant was Celine Dion in the 80s. We forgot about Celine.
Celine, yeah.
And Chantal said, "The Bone Plot episode truly fleshed out Humphrey's backstory to make him one of my favourite characters on the show. But as a person whose first language is French, I also sympathise with Sophie, who's thrown into a loveless and forced marriage to someone she doesn't really know, who has trouble communicating her own feelings to Humphrey, who lives far away from her home country and has no one else but her lady's maid to speak with in her native language. I'm glad that by the end of the episode, she truly has heartfelt feelings for Humphrey, and despite the language barrier, he had heartfelt feelings for her too, enough to save her from a cruel fate like his own." Pretty bang on the money there, really.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we sort of discussed, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, should we get on with the episode?
So this week we are looking at Series 3, Episode 2, entitled A Lot to Take In, directed by Nick Collett, again, written by Matthew Bainton and Jim Howick. The original air date was 16th of August 2021. I think this episode is, I think we mentioned last week how they don't mention COVID, but there's kind of hints. I feel like this episode is the most overt, like, hint to them being in COVID, if you know what I mean.
Really? I did not pick up on anything.
The work from home thing, I feel like that's quite a new phenomenon.
Okay,
Newish.
kind of.
I mean, people did it before, but
Yeah.
to be mainstream, I feel like that's COVID.
Yeah, definitely. Never really thought of that. I was thinking, like, when I was watching it, like, you can't ever see that they're sat apart.
No,
Look, I
no, no,
wonder
no.
if they isolated together so that they could record it all.
Possibly.
To then,
That was usually
but
what
not
they did.
many people. Not many things did that.
And it would be expensive, so to do that, like, 'cause you have to put everybody up, like,
Can't they live in Button?
Right? Yeah, true.
Because that would have been. Well, I assume it's obviously closed anyway when they're recording. But yeah, because I never noticed them kind of like staying away from each other, and because I mean they would have filmed it at the big sort of this. I guess in August it would have been filmed like at the start of 2021.
Probably at the beginning, and that was when we were all in lockdown again, when in the UK anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
Interesting.
It is really interesting because it's
Yeah.
not something I really thought of. I guess.
Yeah. I mean, they don't bring attention to it, so it's
No,
only
and I
like these
think
like
it's good they don't.
Yeah, unlike us who have talked about it
Too much, right? Carry on.
Yeah, anyway. So yeah, we see all the ghosts giving Alison some tips to help Mike tie his tie as he's struggling with it. And we find out that Mike is starting his first day of his new job. I initially thought he was going for a job interview the way they were talking, but it's later cleared up that this is his first day. And he mentions that he can't go back to the gooseberry farm. Not there when I left. I wrote a note of not there when I left, and I have no idea. To just let everybody know, I watch this on Tuesdays, so there's a lot of stuff that I've forgotten exactly what it means. Should be more descriptive in my notes, I think.
Can't think what he does say something.
Basically,
like,
he makes like a comment and like, I can't go back there.
Yeah.
What he did, or
Which we don't know.
Yeah, which I mean, we see in this episode that he's like very happy to just sort of stand up for his morals and just say nah. So he could be. The ghosts all talk about their first days on the job, and how nervous they were. The captain about being in the army, I think. I can't remember. He specifically mentions his rank that he was at. I can't remember the other one. I think it's Thomas. But either way,
Well, Robin, made a
Yes.
note that they were discussing that they were nervous, and Robin said he was bricking it when when he went to hunt his first mammoth.
yeah, which I think trumps the lot of them. It really.
I thought the term bricking it was quite funny.
It's quite a modern saying, isn't it? I like though. It's stuff like that where you put stuff into perspective. Like everyone's like worried, about my first day at work and stuff like that. And it's like he literally has to hunt down a creature that's like twice his size, kill it, and to eat and survive. It's just it's mad what we worry about. Anyway, I mean, this is a comedy series. I'm not getting too deep into that. Julian though mentions that he's never had any nerves. He's not had nerves when he was at school. Then they ask him if he had nerves when he was at uni, and he says, it was all the same people. And he says, well, how about in Parliament? He said, it's all the same people, which very much a comment on the British Parliament system. He mentions that it felt like a second home, and he says, well, a fourth actually, if you count the one in Provence. Is that in France? Provence?
Yeah, I think
Sounds
so.
like it, yeah. And then they sort of say, have you never had a time where you felt out of your depth? And Julian says, no, never had that time. And then we immediately get a flashback to his death day, where we see that he's clearly out of his depth.
Out of his
Out of his depth. Literally, yeah. He's out of his depth, realising what's going on as we see him being taken away by ambulance crew, and he's like the ghost sort of watching over all this happen. And he runs into the other ghosts and collapses out of shock. And Robin sort of cackles at him and says, "Ha, new guy." So yeah, and that's right before we get into the intro. So I like that we get a bit of Julian's backstory, I guess, in this one. A bit. We've had two now of these, I suppose.
I think it's I guess less so his back story as such, and more just
how
his
he's
death.
yeah, how he got here, and more of the acceptance of that. But so after the intro, Thomas insists he's going to spend the day with Alison while Mike is out.
Poor kitty.
Even though Kitty keeps saying that they're having a dance lesson, and Thomas is like, well, I can be there as well. And he finds out that Mike is not actually leaving the house. He's working from home, which the ghosts are absolutely baffled by this concept. And I like how Mike embodies everybody's working from home attire during that period of time, where his top half is professional, his bottom half is all party, as he's just in shorts, and some Crocs.
I don't know. That is how I go to work.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. It's a practice I've long since abandoned now. Like, I just wear just normal, like, around the house clothes, just working from home because.
Yeah, but you never wore a shirt.
No, I used to wear more like dressed up clothes though. Like I was never like professional, wear a shirt and
I
tie.
just wear my pajamas.
But yeah, but now
What are they going to do?
now it is literally just a t-shirt and joggers.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Julian sort of laughs and comments that he invented that look.
Yeah, because he's got in his trousers.
He's all business on top. Yeah. We find out that Mary, as she rushes in, she has discovered loose women and fears that the loud one, who Robin mentions is Coleen Nolan, which immediately got a laugh out of me. She says that she'll be ducked for expressing her opinion freely. It's duckings when they literally sit them on a seat and dunk them in the water.
God.
Because they might have been a witch.
Like how Robin likes Christine Lampard.
Yeah. It was only at this point that I realised that Christine Lampard's married to Frank Lampard. Like, it put the two and two together. I was like, oh, no way. I was like, I never even
Did you
thought.
check that?
Yeah, I Googled it. I
did you
Googled it.
fact check?
Yeah, she's married to him.
That's mad.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it. What was
She used
called?
to do the One Show
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember it in the One Show.
with Adrian Chiles.
Because her last name wasn't Lampard before, was it? I'm sure. Blakely, that's the one, yeah. Because I thought her name changed. I was like, I'm sure I remember her by a different name, but yeah. She got married, so that's why. Fanny says that she doesn't like Loose Women. She says it's an awful show.
She's not.
It's probably the only time I've ever agreed with Fanny. I guess for American listeners, Loose Women is basically, is it The View in America? There's like
I was trying
the
to
one
think
with
of what
Whoopi
it was
Goldberg
called.
on
And
Kelly
Osbourne.
For briefly, anyway.
Briefly, yeah. Yeah, I think it's similar to that. It's just basically a panel show with normally 4 or 5 women who have guests on, and they talk to them.
Talk about today's issues. But they're always like mad like issues. They're like stuff where it's like, who actually cares about this? It's like, are we using like, I don't know. I'm not even going to give an example, but yeah, you'll if you Google loose women topics, you'll see stuff like that. Anyway, there's a knock at the door, and when Alison goes to sort of investigate, we see that it's Jessica Knappert, the actor, who's in this, is called Lucy. While this is happening,
Alison doesn't go, oh my God, it's Jessica
Knappert. Yeah, I remember you from the In-Betweeners film. Also, while this is happening, Julian, I guess with all this playing on his mind of what he's just been thinking, looks a bit glum and turns down a game of chess with Robin. But Lucy talks to Alison and says that she's just going to come out with it. She thinks that Alison is her half sister, which sort of bit of a bombshell to drop. We immediately cut to Mike now, starting his first day, watched on by the captain. And as they're sort of telling him what he needs to do on his first day, they say that he can use the chat window to send messages, and he immediately makes a faux pas by sending smileys or emojis. Sorry, smileys is such an old. They send some emojis, and then they immediately say, just for business purposes, though, so you know. And he's like, oh, okay.
Oops.
Back to Alison and Lucy. Lucy's telling her story. In summary, basically, her mum and Alison's dad had a holiday romance, and then went their separate ways, never spoke to one another again. But Lucy's mum was pregnant after this. She had no way to contact him, so they never did. And then, obviously, when she was on the on this documentary and showed that picture, she realised that she also had a picture of the same person. Kitty immediately is not thrilled by this, not a fan. Starts name calling her. Calls her a baddie specifically. Julian also thinks that this is a bit of a con due to his experiences of the past. And sort of says that people have come up to him and said that there's potential love child, I guess is the best way to describe it out there.
I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, as I mentioned, he to sort of prove this, Lucy does have a picture of her dad. And Kitty gets even more annoyed now, again, with this kind of like childish kind of attitude to it, where she's really annoyed that Alison's not going to spend the day with her now, and starts like sulking and like grimacing, I guess, like just pulling faces. We see another flashback to Julian as he's wandering around at this Tory party conference on the day that he died. We see that his wife Heather is on the phone. Julian tries to talk to her, and he gets his first walk through where she walks through him. I didn't really catch what she was saying on the phone. I think she was just having a conversation explaining what's happened. Basically. And Robin and Mary watch on. Mary says you get used to it, and Robin says you don't. Back in the present, these flashbacks were really short. I noticed. Yeah. They're quite. They just show a little snippet and then it's back. But all this time, like Julian, it kind of gets that kind of conflicted. So the way that they film it makes it look like he's conflicted about all this, and it's weighing on his mind. We go back to Mary, who's continuing to watch Loose Women, but it's been stopped or it's gone to a break, and it's showing the news instead. And she learns about someone on trial and runs away. Is this setting something up? Because... no, it's just setting, because it says they're on trial. So she thinks,
it sort of like triggers her.
I've only just realised what the joke was. I thought it was setting up a plot line later on or something.
Oh, no, it's because she's like, trial.
Yeah. It took me 3 days to understand the joke. I forgot to mention as well that when Kitty's sulking, Alison kind of says or gestures to Pat to get rid of her, essentially. We go back to Mike, and I didn't really explain what he's doing. He's selling life insurance.
Spirited life
insurance, that's it, yeah. That's all he's doing. They've told him, keep it short. They specifically say, don't let people talk because they'll give you their whole life story. So just, be ruthless, be quick, and just try and sell them and move on to the next one. But we see that Mike has had a few calls, and as he starts up another one, he immediately goes off script and asks him how his day was or something like that, just like, a general conversational thing, to which the captain is annoyed at. We see that he's coaching him without being able to...
Well, yeah, because he can't hear him.
But he's sort of like running him through these things. Humphrey tells him to leave off, that it's only his first day. And the captain says that he could do so much better at this than Mike could. So Humphrey says, okay, well, let's put it to the test. He'll be the customer, and the captain can do Mike's role. So Humphrey calls up with the name Mr. Cheese, and the captain immediately insults him by saying that's a silly name. To which Humphrey sort of reacts as if that was real. I think I might noted it down later on, but this I'll come back to it actually, because it's more relevant later on. We go and see Alison giving Lucy a tour of the house, or as I've written down here, the whole use.
I think Mike's kind of like being told off, isn't he, by his actual boss to kind of like keep it snappy and keep the chat. So his boss can talk to him via chat while listening into his calls, and she's like telling him to...
I'd hate that.
Oh, I'd hate that too. It's probably horrible. Yeah,
there's nothing worse than like trying to do a job when somebody's over your shoulder watching you do the job, you know what I mean? So as you were saying, he's kind of being monitored while this is happening. yeah, we see Alison giving Lucy a tour of the house, and Kitty, as she said earlier on, that to have a dance lesson she needs music. So Alison says, "Oh, I'll just put some music on," casually to Lucy, and puts on Wakefield Saturday Night, which is the most awkward. If you were like invited somebody round and you just needed music,
I mean,
on
she
in the
kind of
background.
just turned up. But
Yeah, true. But still,
Yeah.
like you would not put Saturday Night. We see Kitty trying to get Pat to do her dance and her dance moves because Kitty's sort of choreographed her own special dance, basically. We go back to Mike and we see that he's still struggling with this call. And we also see that the captain is as well. I'll bring it up here. There's so many Monty Python references in this bit.
I've never seen Monty Python, so I just don't know.
This is what I ended up watching a YouTube video of like Monty Python bits.
I think you sent me it, but I want to watch it.
But yeah, like there's a character called the Captain who constantly interrupts jokes and sketches, basically saying that they've gone too silly. His name, I think he's Graham Cheese.
I see.
And I think Graham's one of the Pythons. So yeah, there's all different references to it in there, and I think the way that they do this as well feels like a Monty Python sketch. But yeah, I wonder if they're like influenced by you. I imagine most comedians are,
yeah.
especially like a group of comedians. Other thing to note as well is the call that Mike is just getting is from a Mary Kingston who lives in Wolverhampton, which I thought was really interesting. I was like, that's really close to home.
That is home.
I just thought it was funny though. Also that she's Irish as well, or Northern Irish. I'm not sure where the accent was from.
I can't remember.
But as he's been told, keep it snappy and, she literally goes on to give her life story. And Mike starts just getting sucked into this as she's talking through what happens. We get more of it later, but we can see where this is going, that he's sort of getting suckered in. We go back to Alison, and she talks to Lucy about their dad. Lucy says she wants to know more about her dad, but Alison says that she didn't really know him because he died when she was really young, but kind of says what her mom told him, told her that he was like, it's gone bad today. Lucy starts to cry and get upset that she'd never met him or never even knew him. But they kind of hopeful that they can kind of be together now, or Alison and Lucy can kind of meet each other, and it feels a bit like they have something that they've missed out on, I guess. We go back to a flashback of Julian, and Julian's really not taking it very well, the being a ghost. He starts to insisting that there's no such thing as ghosts, this isn't real. And Julian levels some criticism at him that he says that they can't be real ghosts because they're so stereotypical. A grey lady, a man with a fake arrow through his neck, and he goes, even a headless one. They must have heard this before, you know what I mean? Like the criticism they've had, so they've just worked it into this because it definitely feels like firing back, you know what I mean? And Julian says he's got to get out of here, and he just tries to run away. And as we've seen multiple times with ghosts, he runs out of the grounds and immediately is turned around. We start then to see a montage of him trying to escape. He tries to drive away.
See, I've got a question.
Okay, yeah.
How is it that he can go through the car door to get into the car, but he can sit on the seat?
I imagine simply for filmability.
Well, obviously. But
I know what you mean, yeah. Because he walks through the chair as well, like later in this same bit. Yeah, he walks through the chair. But I guess you could start getting like really silly and say, why do they not fall through the earth and stuff like that as well?
Suppose.
I don't know. Like maybe that's natural. So
I mean, the earth, I can understand why they wouldn't fall through the earth.
Yeah.
But
There's a lot
objects,
of ghosts.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because at points as well, obviously they have to film it. Like, don't get me wrong, I fully understand that, like, you know, they're not real ghosts and, like, this has to be filmed. But at some points, like, I think it was in the last episode, actually, when Robin is walking over to Humphrey's head on the floor, and we hear Robin's footsteps.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like,
yeah.
well,
Shouldn't.
how do we hear his footsteps? But then people do say,
You can hear
heard
creaks.
footsteps
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah,
So
true.
there's a lot to unpack, really.
Yeah. Does a ghost have any kind of weight to it? Yeah, or anything? Who knows?
Who knows?
But yeah, we don't know why he can sit in the chair, but he does sit in the car.
Can't,
but
tries
then can't
to drive.
But then can't.
Oh, he
grab-
can't. Yeah, of course he can't.
grab the steering wheel.
No.
He that also comes into it later on because like he hides in the back of the car. So anyway,
And he gets launched back.
yeah. He tries to moonwalk out. He tries
Every way.
every
really,
way.
yeah.
I can't remember how many times he did. I think it was 100 times in he tries because Robin gets to that count eventually.
Oh, because he says 2 fat ladies, 88.
Yes, yeah, yeah. But he's still struggling with just being a ghost. Like he just doesn't understand all of this. Back in the present, Thomas is. I should have probably mentioned it earlier. When he sees Lucy, he starts to feel funny. Emotions, yeah. He doesn't understand the way that he feels, specifically about Lucy. And he goes to speak to Mary and asks for her opinion.
Oh, what is wrong with me? Why does my heart pound? Why do I ache so? Mary, what is your opinion?
My opinion?
Yes, as a woman.
A loose woman?
If you like. So, what ails me?
Be there something new on thy plate?
Go on.
When I was 3 and 20, my mother did grow fennel. Oh, how I loved it so. I ate nothing but fennel for weeks, sparing the onions. But all the while, I did have a terrible time on the stool, but did not know why. 'Twas the fennel, of course.
Well, it isn't fennel. I can't eat anything. Unless... Lucy is my fennel. My God, you're right. I'm hopelessly in love with fennel. I must tell Onions. Alison.
I did like that Mary gets to be a loose woman, but basically just ends up talking a lot about fennel, which
I dare say I've never had fennel.
I couldn't tell you what it is.
I
really.
imagine like earthy onions.
Yeah, I can't even picture what fennel looks like.
I could tell you what it looks like. It looks like that. It's like that size.
Is it kind of like a big radish or something?
No, and it's got things coming off it.
Okay.
Like as if you had like 4 spring onions fused together.
Right. I'm gonna Google
like
fennel.
big spring onions.
Right, fennel. We're gonna get a live fennel reaction. Fennel. No, I typed in fennel reaction. Fennel. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it kind of does look like a
4 fused spring onions.
Yeah. Interesting. I couldn't imagine what it tastes like either.
Earthy onions. That's what I'm gonna guess.
Well, we shall. Well,
we won't see.
We're
not going to do a live taste test.
Yeah. Where are these? Where is the phenols that we need to find? Lucy, we find out is Thomas's fennel, and we that's the takeaway from this whole bit anyway. We then see Kitty and Pat dancing. They try their dance moves out.
I can teach you a few moves if you like. I was a regional dance finalist, you know. How about this, eh? Mashed potato. Is it easy? That's it. Now we're cooking, Spuds. Hey? Yes. Okay, let's try this one. Oh, that's right. Don't forget to transfer your weight. I got loads of moves. dice it, and dice it, dice it, dice it.
He's trying to keep her occupied.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I thought he was just getting into it, to be honest.
No.
But yeah, I guess he's just trying to keep her busy.
I think it kind of like when Alison asked Pat to look after Kitty, it kind of reinforced what I said a couple of episodes ago, that like Pat's the one who kind of understands Alison the best.
I'd say so,
and kind of like helps her in the best way he can. So I think their relationship is like interesting.
Yeah.
Because she kind of counts on him to keep the other ghosts in check, I suppose.
Yeah, he's kind of like her link to the ghost. Like, she obviously can talk to
all of them, but she probably relates most to him. Even though Julian was probably the newest ghost,
I think
he's just not on her radar or wavelength, should I say?
I feel like Pat is is more like morally is in the same vein as her, I suppose. But so Pat decides to show off some of his dance moves to Kitty to keep her occupied.
So 80s.
Including the mashed potato, the sprinkler, and some groovy 60s moves that he knows.
What was the sprinkler?
It's the that one. I can't. I'm trying like. It's that one. That's it. Yeah, that's the sprinkler.
The mashed potato.
It's good for an audio.
Yeah. I'm actually pleased that we haven't got a video of us and we doing that.
Yeah, just imagine us doing the sprinkler dance. Very Napoleon Dynamite, where he's just going through all his different dance moves in this bit. We see Fanny talking to Alison, and she urges some caution to believe Lucy's story. She says she actually was the victim of an identity theft, as someone pretending to be her made their way to Southampton and blagged their way onto a boat. The boat being the Titanic, which Alison is immediately taken aback by, that she was almost on the Titanic. What was Fanny's quote?
It's my favourite quote. It's a really good quote. It says, "People forget that before the iceberg, it was a perfectly pleasant trip."
I mean, true.
They're not wrong, but
it was fine up until about, I don't know, how many hours were they in when they did that?
I think it was a couple of days, because they were well into they were nearly at like New York, I think.
Yeah. So close and so far.
Sad.
She seems upset that somebody stole it, but she seemed Titanic because she said that Fanny says that she would never let an American oik paint her breasts. So she does have
some good quotes there.
Good lines in about a minute. Yeah. I don't even know what an oik is. I think it's like a poor person. I think or something.
I don't know. Like that. She's awful, isn't she?
Thomas then arrives and says, because Mary had basically convinced him to be honest, and with her fennel story, explain him to be honest and just tell the truth. So he says to Alison that his heart's changed and that he's now interested in Lucy. Alison pretends not to be listening because Lucy returns, but I wonder if Thomas took this as her being really annoyed with him, as Thomas tends to. We go back to Mike, and he's still on his call with Mary from Wolverhampton, and is getting a lot of notifications on his sort of chat from his supervisor, basically telling him to wrap it up. And I think
you're fired.
Yeah, one comes through saying that he's going to be fired. And he basically ignores all this because the story is just so incredible. And I can't remember if it's in this bit. Yes. So in this bit, Mary says, "Oh, I've been keeping you for far too long. You've got stuff to do." And he basically says over this call, "It doesn't matter. I quit," and then types "I quit" into the chat to basically say, stuff your job. And Mary says that, she...
Are you sure the person's called Mary?
100%, yeah.
I've got that there was called Anne. And are you getting confused with our Mary Ann?
I'm sure it was Mary Kingston. We will have to look at this. I'm pretty sure.
I think you're getting confused.
Right.
Pause.
So we've checked the tape. Tash was right, but I wasn't wrong by like misunderstand, like getting the name confused. I just read the wrong
I
part.
thought you had Mary Ann on the brain.
So the caller, as people might have been sort of screaming at the earphones, was Auntie from Thornton in Dale. Is it? Or Thornton Iredale? Not sure. Is that in Ireland? Because that would make sense as well.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, his next prospect was Mary Kingston from Wolverhampton, so he never got to her, never spoke to her. No. Probably didn't miss out, don't worry about it. So, yeah, I was wrong.
All the way through, I've gone, no, Luke's normally right when he gets... And I was like, do you know what? I wrote Anne here.
I got the name from the wrong area, that's all it was. Easy mistake to make, I suppose. But yes, anyway, so he hangs up, tells him he's going to quit. But Anne, because I've wrote Mary in all the notes, Anne says, oh, well, there's plenty of jobs out there, and actually says, well, I might actually have a job for you, or her daughter might have a job for him. Pat and Kitty are still continuing their dances. Pat sort of wants to wrap it up now. And sort of says, he's had enough. But Kitty's still insistent on continuing, and Pat is now regretting learning all these dance moves because she seems to be just full of energy. We go back to Mary, and we see that she is praying for the loose women.
Dear Lord, take pity on loose women.
I just love that there's a plot line around loose women. It's so funny. And Thomas comes in and explains what he's done, but now worries that he's made a mistake, and again asks Mary for her opinion. And Mary now goes on to explain how that fennel and celery are actually in the same family. Because I can't remember the exact analogy. It's such a weird story. But basically they're from the same family, which gives Thomas an epiphany that he actually doesn't love Lucy. He loves the part of Alison in Lucy.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
So he's still in love with Lucy, still in love with Alison. And then Mary doesn't understand why Thomas is sort of wandered off all happy, but she's happy because the loose women have all been pardoned as they're now continuing. Oh yeah, I jumped ahead. I think.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, I've just put Mike realises he's been badgered to wrap up the call. So anyway, that happens now. And he quits on the spot. Luckily, the woman he's talking to have a job position. I wondered why I didn't take any notes. I was like, I'm really slapdash with the notes on this bit. But yeah, she might have a job that he might be interested in, which is a bit of luck, to be honest. But, Lucy then leaves, gives Alison her number, and says that she'd like to get to know her more, but, doesn't want to pressure her into keeping in touch. Thomas reappears and explains that he actually loves Alison after all, and only her. So just to make his feelings very clear. Alison goes inside, sees Pat fleeing from the dance machine that is Kitty. He's kind of like screaming at one point as well. Mike and Alison both sort of come back together after their days, and they both sort of say at the same time, "You won't believe the day that I've just had." And Mike says, you go first. And as soon as Alison explains her story, he says, yeah, yours is better. So Alison explains exactly what it is. Mike says it does sound crazy, but it doesn't mean that it's not true, not after the story that he's just heard on the phone. And also kind of mentions, she speaks to ghosts. They talk about it later, actually, I think, where, she speaks to ghosts, so it can't be any more strange than that. Fanny tries to speak to Julian to get his opinion on all this, but he's still daydreaming. And we see another flashback to him basically accepting his fate, that he is a ghost now, and kind of settles into all this. He goes on to talk to Robin, sits down and says, "Oh, maybe we can play chess." And this is where we see that Robin is taught chess by Julian. Alison goes on to believe, as I said, she goes on to believe that Lucy's story is legit because she speaks to ghosts, so anything could be possible. Mike explains that he's quit and now potentially has a new job. And Alison says to Kitty that if you're free now, she can dance, but she said she's just not interested as Pat starts pleading for mercy. The captain goes on to speak to Fanny and says that he's learned that sometimes you just have to go against the grain and not follow orders. After seeing what Mike did and what he's got from not following orders. And he then goes on to follow the exact orders that Fanny gives him, completely contradicting himself. And we finally see Julian and Robin sit down, and Julian says, "Do you fancy that game of chess after all?" So he's kind of accepted and got over his feelings today, I suppose, and gone back to the status quo. So there we go. That's the end of the episode anyway. What did you think?
I thought it was a good episode, but I don't think it was a strong episode.
Yeah.
I think it's the first time where we're kind of... I don't know, because it kind of felt like when Lucy left, there was like unfinished business. Like it definitely didn't feel like that's the last that we're going to see of her.
Yeah.
And I think that's the first time it's kind of left open.
Yeah. Each of the episodes is kind of self-contained.
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of like a story that's open and closed. I know, like, we see recurring characters like Barclay. But yeah, just I'm thinking about it though. I guess we had a similar thing with the wedding episode. That those two episodes were kind of focused around the lead up to the wedding and the wedding.
Even those, though, the plot itself was self-contained. Like, it would be like, if we never saw the wedding, it wouldn't matter as such, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I suppose with this episode, it just didn't really feel like much actually happened.
That was my point, yeah.
A lot happened, but not much happened. It's really strange how it's worked out. But yeah, I enjoyed it, but it definitely wasn't like a strong episode.
Yeah.
I think I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
So still strong, still good, still enjoyed it, but definitely not as... I don't know, I'd even go as far as say maybe 6.5 actually, after the recap. Yeah.
I kind of lean more towards that. Like, I put it's an okay episode, but it felt like a setup. Like, this is all in service of something else happening later in the series, which obviously we know Lucy does come back. It's a mini spoiler there, I suppose, but I guess watching this, I don't think you'd ever think that she wasn't. But yeah, that's what it felt like, is it's just building up to it. So it felt like not enough happened in the episode on its own to make the episode stand out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I'd go far...
I mean, we learnt more about Julian, I suppose.
Yeah, I liked his little flashback, but even that was quite short and like not very fleshy. It was just a bit about his... Yeah, just I didn't think it had too much in there. But then again, we've learnt a lot about Julian anyway from another episode, so it's not too big of a deal, I think, with that. I did think, though, because of that, again, I'll preface this by saying I enjoy every episode of Ghosts. Before anyone says anything, I think this is probably my least favourite episode so far.
Okay.
Just because I just think, like, I think, sometimes people say, oh, I'd skip episodes out if I did a rewatch, like the week ones. You couldn't do it with this one because it's reliant.
You need to know who Lucy is.
Yeah, exactly. But it's definitely, I feel like it's the weakest episode on its own. I give it a 6. So...
yeah, I can see that. I'm sort of not sure. 6.5, 7. It's difficult, but yeah. But
I think a lot of people feel this way or feel closer to this because the IMDb score is only a 7.7.
Wow, that's really low in comparison to the other episodes.
That's the thing. Like, everything else is like quite high, so a 7.7 is pretty low, especially for these series. For this like series, and that was from 513 people. So yeah, interesting, I think.
Welcome, spirits and spectres, to Tasha's Spooky Corner.
So this week, sticking with our haunted places / buildings across the world in Tasha's Terrifying Tales Spooky Corner.
Just name it whatever you want.
We're going to look at this week of the Catacombs of Paris. So, the Catacombs of Paris are underground ossuaries in Paris, France, which hold the remains of more than 6 million people.
That's quite a lot.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah. A lot of ghosts.
A lot of ghosts. Built to consolidate Paris's ancient stone quarries, they extend south from, I'm not good at French, Barrière d'Enfer, brackets, Gate of Hell.
Right. So, doesn't sound like a great place.
Nope. The former city gate. The ossuary was created as part of the effort to eliminate the effects of the city's overflowing cemeteries. The ossuary remained largely forgotten until it became a novelty place for concerts and other private events in the early 19th century. After further renovations, the construction of accesses around Palace d'Enfer Rochereau, it opened to public visitations from 1874. My French is not good.
I imagine the Canadian listener is now like laughing her ass off.
Oh. Chantal, help me here. Yeah, I'm very sorry, and my French is not good.
What did you do at GCSE?
French. Since 2013, the catacombs have numbered among the 14 of Since 2013, the catacombs have numbered among the 14 City of Paris museums managed by Paris Musees. Sorry.
I imagine that's just there.
Although the ossuary comprises only a small selection of the underground mines of Paris, Parisians often refer to the entire tunnel network as the catacombs. Cemeteries whose remains were moved to the catacombs include Saint Innocents, the largest by far, with about 2 million buried over 600 years of operation. Saint Etienne Desgrais, one of the oldest. Madeleine Cemetery, Erancis Cemetery, which was used for the victims of the French Revolution, and the Notre Dame de Blancs Montreux. I'm so sorry. Due to this.
It's going to get worse if we go all around the world.
I know. I'm so sorry. Due to this, the skeletal remains of several notable victims of the French Revolution were transferred to the catacombs. In the early 1990s, a group of cataphiles, people who study and explore the Paris catacombs regularly, were walking through the dark chambers of the ossuary when they found a video camera on the ground.
Okay.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, what's a person who likes cats then? Is that a feline?
A feline
file. Yeah.
Feline file.
Feline file.
Cataphile. The camera still had footage on it. As they watched, they heard disturbing noises from the video. They could tell the man holding the camera was lost and had no idea how to escape. The more they watched, the more it became clear the man was going mad in the underground network of tunnels. The video ended abruptly with the man dropping his camera to the ground. To this day, no one knows who he was or if he ever managed to get out alive. Many believe that the movie As Above, So Below was inspired by this tragedy.
See, I was going to bring up that. That's the only knowledge of the catacombs that I know of is watching that film. Yeah. Have you seen it?
No.
I didn't know if we went to see it or not. No.
According to legend, just after midnight is when the walls begin to speak. It is said disembodied voices try to persuade you to venture even deeper into the catacombs until you can't find your way out again. So, only one death has officially been confirmed in the catacombs. During the French Revolution, a man named Philibert Aspier was a doorman at the Val de Grace Hospital. On a mission to fetch a certain liquor from the cellar, Philibert actually ended up entering the Paris catacombs by accident. Walking around in the pitch-black catacombs alone with just a single candle, Philibert became lost and confused. Many believe he may have been intoxicated at the time. Ultimately, Philibert's candle went out and everything turned to black, making it impossible for him to escape the profound darkness of the catacombs.
That sounds like the most terrifying thing in the world.
His body was only found 11 years later by a group of cataphiles. They identified him by his hospital keyring hanging from his belt. He is buried in the catacombs in the exact place where he died, which I think is awful, with a tombstone describing his death. Cataphiles and catacomb folklorists say that every November 3rd, Philibert's ghost haunts the labyrinth of the catacombs. Now, I hadn't written it here, but I did also read that his body was found very close to the steps which would have led to his escape, which I think is awful. I mean, to bury him...
I wonder if... I was thinking that, like...
Or to leave him there.
Surely, if you got trapped in there, you wouldn't want your body buried there as well. But I wonder if, like... Is there something in, like, beliefs where your body needs to be where you died for your spirit to be there or something? Or, like, I don't know.
How would that work, though?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So, finally... Because the catacombs are directly under the Paris streets, large foundations cannot be built above them, and cave-ins have destroyed many buildings. For this reason, there are few tall buildings in this area.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because you don't see it apart from like the Eiffel Tower and stuff.
Apart from the biggie.
yeah, you don't tend to see a lot of tall buildings in Paris.
No.
Yeah, I can't think of any.
No.
Arc de Triomphe, that's the big one.
Yeah, so there we go.
There you go.
The Catacombs of Paris. I'm terribly, terribly sorry for my pronunciation of things. I'm really bad at speaking full stop, so I don't really know why.
You've heard me pronounce wines,
yeah.
So like I'm not much better.
No. But
yeah.
I'm willing to be corrected on what I've said. So
yeah. It's an interesting thing though, the catacombs. I think just the location alone, I think, is just bound to have these kinds of stories.
I had no idea what it was until I've obviously heard of it before. But I didn't realise that it was to consolidate cemeteries. So I had no idea. I find that so bizarre.
There's a lot of stuff happening in France, I suppose, like with the plague and stuff like that, and then they've had a lot of wars, revolutions, etc. Crazy.
So there we go. Thanks for listening. We love to hear what you think, and if you'd like to keep up to date with when new episodes of the podcast are released, you can follow us on our Instagram and our Facebook profile. Just search Haunting Button House. You can also get in touch via email at hauntingbuttonhouse@outlook.com.